What has COVID-19 got to do with you and property? Well, that's what we're going to be speaking about in this video. Good day guys, Samuel Akenwin here, and in this video we're going to be talking about what's actually happening right now with this whole COVID-19 virus, etc., and how it's impacting on property. Now, the reason we're doing this video is because on the 10th of March, I received a text message from one of my contacts basically asking me, is there going to be a price effect on property as a result of COVID-19? Now, to be honest with you, I just responded to that text, sharing the value as I usually do, without actually thinking about the fact that there's going to be a greater and wider audience of people who are going to be interested not only in that factor, but also in several other factors as it relates to COVID-19 also. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the price effect that COVID-19 could potentially have on the property market. We're also going to be talking about a few other things, so stay tuned. Just to get us kick-started, looking at this whole price effect, if you look at the text that was sent to me, that was the kind of real emphasis. Is there going to be a price effect as a result of the virus, and more importantly, what the virus is actually doing in the society? Now, I want to start by saying this to you, which for me is very, very vital. Most people forget that every market, every general business, which generally pertains to be some form of a market, operates off of two primary factors. And those two primary factors are supply and demand. Now, the reality is, if supply and demand generally drive any market, then one of the things we have to understand is, what is COVID-19 going to have as an effect on the supply and demand of property? Now, I'm just going to throw out a few ideas of things that could take place as a direct result of the social distancing that's being kind of imposed, as well as the kind of lockdown mentality / nature, most of which I don't necessarily agree with, but that's maybe a video for a whole nother time. Now, just to put things very, very simply, if, for example, there is going to be a number of people who exit their current tenancy because of the fact that their workplace has said to them, you no longer need to work from the actual work location, but you can actually work from home. So let's give you a real example. So I've got a particular group I'm a part of where someone has said in that group that they've got a number of tenants that have left their HMO because of the fact that they no longer have to work where they are. They can actually work from home. So these guys are no longer staying in these HMO rooms that they were staying in previously, but instead they're actually just going back home to wherever home is. It might be in London, it might be in Brighton, it could be anywhere in the country, but they're going back to those places because now they don't need to have these 6-month, 12-month tenancies on these smaller rooms where they're only staying for the purpose of work. Now, the issue with that is reducing the particular demand, but it's having no effect on supply. And the direct correlational effect it will have on supply is, as a result, there'll be more rooms available, so therefore there'll be more supply. And generally what happens is, as supply goes up and demand goes down, price generally tends to go down. So this is on a rental capacity. So if you're looking at HMO rooms and you're in an area where the people who are living in your HMO rooms or living in your properties are only living there for work, and work is being drastically affected by the current influx of what's taking place, then that's going to have a radical effect on your particular business. And I've given a clear example in terms of how that could affect your business if all these people no longer need to stay at work and therefore they're working from home and thus may not need the expense of your particular property. So that's one kind of thing to think about. Now, because that's from a rental perspective, let's look at it from a purchasing, acquisition and sales perspective to help people kind of see how they can navigate moving forward. Now, generally, again, the same things can tend to apply. So let's use that rental metric and implement that and impute that into this ideology of a sales metric. And how does it basically relate? This is how it relates. If you have a number of landlords who are already stressed out, already unhappy because of the tax changes, the new HMO legislation, etc., etc., I could go down a list, but if you watch some of our other videos, which I'll link up above, you'll see some of the reasons why people are deciding to sell already anyway. But if all of those standard market conditions are taking place, but then you have tenants who are leaving properties specifically because they do not need those properties for the purpose of work anymore, then what generally happens is potentially these landlords could be in an even trickier position as it pertains to being able to pay their mortgage. And then if you also add on top of that the whole concept and ideology that a number of these people that are actually exiting as tenants, exiting properties, are creating a lopsided element of supply and demand as well in the property market, that also potentially can now have another knock-on effect to these landlords. And as a direct byproduct, many landlords may decide that they want to sell, get rid of their properties, they're fed up, they've had enough, they don't want to deal with the headache, and this COVID-19 thing is only making things worse for them, and thus fire sale time. And that is a real likelihood of what is happening. Now, the government is kind of combating that in its own way through means of, quantitative easing, which basically just means printing more money, and side by side with that through means of dropping interest rates. Now, I don't know if you follow the American market, but if you're following the American market, which is something I've been following for years, you will see that on the other side of the pond, the markets are tanking right now. And because the markets are tanking, generally what the government does in the US anyway, and UK usually follows, but generally what the US market does when the markets start to tank is they start to try and cheat the system or make the system work anyway. And part of making it work anyway is dropping interest rates. Now, the thing is, if you drop interest rates a little bit too much, what generally happens is savers are negatively affected, whereas investors are more positively invested because they're not going to leave their money in a bank. They're going to have their money actively working for them in assets. Now, as long as those assets are actually working, okay, because there's going to be some assets which will not work in a downturn in an economy, as long as those assets are actually working, it could be a really, really favorable time. So again, if you're one of those people who are kind of concerned about what's the market going to do, how's it going to react, what I want you to do is start to think about the broader ramifications. Don't just think about the microcosm of what you're doing and your particular situation. Now, a second major point, which I think is really pertinent to actually discuss in this video, and this might actually be the reason you actually clicked onto this video, is the whole scenario about the mortgage holidays. Now, I want to share with you a little story. This is something that my dad used to tell me when I was really young, and he used to say to me, son, just be aware that most people go on holiday when they're dealing with stress, drama, and things they're not happy about. But always beware that if you are dealing with stress, drama, and things you're not happy about, and you fly away on holiday, you're going to fly back to the same stress, drama, and things you're not happy about. And I just want to share that as a concept for everyone who's watching this video to understand that there may be mortgage holidays applied to people, but if, for example, that you decide to take such a holiday, just bear in mind that you will still have to work this out when you return from your mortgage holiday. And what does that mean? In simple sense, it means this: a mortgage holiday is not 3 months, and that's the time period that the government are currently speaking about. It's not 3 months for you to just not pay your mortgage. It's 3 months of assistance from the government for you to be able to have some kind of resource to help you at a time where you may need it. So again, that's the first thing I want to share with you guys, because there's a lot of things going around on Facebook, social media, and all these other places where people are basically acting like there's 3 months to not pay your mortgage. Now, first and foremost, there was a lot of conversation about this mortgage holiday only being applicable for residential homeowners. Then it kind of shifted to being available for buy-to-let investors also. So what I want you to know is you have to go and check out the information. Make sure that you find the information from a pertinent source. That's another thing that's really important at this time. When you're going through an unprecedented time, one of the key things to make sure you do is ensure you're getting information from the right sources. What many people are doing is they're looking only to social media and their direct contacts in order to get the right information. And there's a lot of things that are going to be filtered through, which are going to be false information, which is going to be irrelevant, and as a direct byproduct are going to lead you astray. So again, please get the right information from the right people. So going back to this mortgage holiday concept, the first thing I want to share with you guys is just beware that whatever assistance the government are going to give you with regards to your mortgage, it will be recuperated at a later time. And one of the key ways that usually governments or banks recuperate payments is by increasing those payments later on. So the point is, if you are going to take a 3-month holiday from paying your mortgage, please be aware that you may end up paying slightly increased or majorly increased, it depends on your situation, but increased payments on your mortgage in the future. And again, that might work for you. That might be something that works for you. But again, don't go into it blindly. Just go into it knowing that that is a potential ramification of the process. Now, another thing as it pertains to mortgage holidays that I really want to discuss is this whole scenario about the landlord or the homeowner getting the mortgage holiday and having nothing to do with the tenant. If you've seen a few of Jeremy Corbyn's tweets, and you should know who Jeremy Corbyn is, basically he's posted 2 tweets that I'm aware of so far where he's basically lobbying for whatever benefits landlords get to also be passed on to tenants. Now, one of the big ones, which I think has already been passed, and they're basically pushing this forward, with full force, is the no eviction process right now. So what that basically means is at this particular season, they are asking for all landlords of whatever size portfolios to not evict tenants. And obviously it should just make sense to you logically why Jeremy Corbyn's pushing for this. The reason I believe he's pushing for this is because if they're asking people to stay at home, it's very hard for someone who's being evicted to stay at home. So they're basically pushing for all aspects of eviction to basically be frozen throughout this period. So effectively, it's not only a mortgage holiday that they're debating, they're also pushing right now an eviction holiday. So I want you to be very mindful of that as well. If you're a landlord and you've got tenants who haven't been paying, for example, that right now you may end up having to shoulder the cost of that for a bit longer. Now, the good thing is if you've got a mortgage holiday and you decide to go down that route, that might help you with this at that time because you're not receiving the rent anyway. However, it's just, again, things to be mindful of. Now, what I want you to be aware of is through means of the RLA, which is the Residential Landlord Association, and the NLA, which is the National Landlord Association, information has been shared that basically the mortgage holiday also has an attachment to tenants not paying rent. And this is a very, very important factor because, again, you've got people out here who are going to be saying to you, oh, you've got 3 months where you don't have to pay your mortgage, just call your bank. But they may not link that to the associated benefit you need to now provide for your tenants. Because if tenants are not able to pay rent because of the fact that they're not at work or they're contractors, I've had people reaching out to me who are actual contractors saying that they've been asked to work from home and they don't know if they're going to be paid. Now, guys, look, this is how serious this is for certain people in this current climate. If, for example, you're the kind of individual in this scenario who has chosen to go for these mortgage holidays, just beware that there may be a connection to tenants not paying you rent in this season as well. And I want you to be mindful of this. I don't want you to just make swift decisions without actually going to get the information that's really pertinent to you. So Jeremy Corbyn's tweets, again, they're basically pushing for landlords to not evict right now and also for landlords to extend the benefit. I do believe the extension of the benefit is going to be something that's going to be pushed forward. And if you're going to be unable to prove that you've extended that benefit, that may prove a challenge later on if you do choose to take a mortgage holiday. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about as we actually wrap up this video is the burden that is actually being felt by a number of management agents, rent-to-rent and service apartment operators. Now, predominantly service apartment, from my knowledge, is the niche where a number of people are actually reaching out and basically saying they're going through some element of hardship. Now, I know on the freehold side, we've got a whole bunch of commercial owners, predominantly freehold pub owners, who are going through some dilemma right now as well because of the fact that the government themselves a week ago started saying people don't go to pubs, people, let's reduce the social gatherings, etc., etc. So if you're a pub owner right now, you might be hurting, you might be going through, some real financial turmoil and not understanding how you're going to come out of this. My encouragement to you is, and I know a number of pub owners and a few of the pub owners that I actually know have already indicated that they are very low leveraged on those pub assets. If you are highly leveraged, what I want to encourage you to do is just think creatively, think outside of the box. This is always what I'm talking about. I'm always talking about how we can think creatively, how we can think outside of the box, how we can generate revenue by thinking differently. So I want to encourage you at this time to think creatively, think outside of the box, look at what you could potentially do at this time in order to move forward for the future. Now, going back to the main point that I wanted to share to wrap up the video, I want to just reach out to those of you who are doing management agreements, those of you predominantly in the service apartment arena. I want to share something with you because you may not have ever heard this. You may have done property coaching or training with certain kinds of property coaches and property trainers, but I want to share this with you because as a coach in the property field, I have so many people that are doing different strategies that I work with, that I help them to get to where they are. And getting success is great, okay, but you need to be adaptable in order to succeed in property, really, okay? Credit crisis 2007, 2008, whatever we're going through right now, 2000, the dot-com bubble, bust and boom. The point I want to make to you is property is a market, okay? And people forget this all the time. People just think property is an industry and you just make money from it. No, it doesn't work like that. Property is a market like any other market, which means it has its up times, it has its down times, which means there's times to buy, there's times to sell, which means there's times to acquire, there's times to hold, there's time to be creative. But the point I want to make to you is you always have to be thinking in order to be effective in a market, okay? And that's my encouragement to you. And what I want to say to you as a bit of advice to each and every one of you who are doing management agreements with service apartment properties and potentially are losing money. You know, I read in a particular WhatsApp group earlier on today, a particular person was sharing that they had lost over £10,000 through means of commitments that have been broken on their service apartments due to what's going on right now. I also heard someone else reach out to me. I might see if I can put it on the screen. And what they were saying is that they knew someone who was using their service apartment properties as basically incubators for people who need to actually socially isolate. So again, guys, I'm just throwing this out there. You need to be creative. You need to think outside the box. Just as I was saying to the pub owners earlier, you need to be creative and think outside the box. But the real point I want to share and the real thing I want to convey to you guys, if you're out here doing service apartments and you're getting hit really hard, is be transparent, okay? You might not have been told this by other property coaches, other property trainers. Be transparent, guys. Look, every single contract, every single agreement, every single relationship you should have in property should be based on one foundation, and that foundation is transparency. Too many people in the property industry do not operate in transparency, and as a result, they're breaking the law. As a result, they're not doing the right thing. Guys, if you want to operate ethically, which is the way I encourage people to operate, which is the way some property trainers encourage people to operate, if you want to be ethical, part of being ethical starts with a transparent conversation. And the reason I want to encourage you to start with a transparent conversation is because that allows you right now in these times where they're unprecedented and people don't know what to do and people sometimes are scared. People don't know how to move forward. Guys, this is the time where it makes it easy to have a real conversation with the landlord who you're managing that property for, with the tenants who are renting from you, with the clients, with the bookings that you have if you're doing service apartments. So guys, I just want to encourage you to go out there and have those conversations, have those transparent conversations. Let people know as a result of X, Y is taking place, and because Y is taking place, Z is going to be the eventuality. Is there a way we can look at doing A, B, or C? Guys, this is easy stuff if you start on transparency. Most people don't start on transparency. I apologize, but again, this is why I'm saying to you, if you're one of those people who've been doing property training with people who do not care about you, people who just want to fill the room or just make as much money as possible, then they would never have told you this. They never would have told you to be transparent with the landlord from day one. If you've lied to a landlord and told the landlord, oh yeah, I'm just going to use your house as a single let, blah, 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 and then you've gone and multi-letted that house or gone and done service apartments with that house, guys, now's going to be the time where if you started on truth, you would see the value of actually having a transparent relationship. And if you haven't started on truth, what I want to let you know is you can start again, okay? You can have that conversation. Again, guys, this is about being transparent. You can have that conversation and just let people know that we were doing this is not working because of what's going on, and I need some kind of help, or can I get some kind of help? Guys, transparency is the key because property is a people business. As we draw this video to an end, one of the things I wanted to interrupt this video to do is reach out to anyone who's worried right now, because I know that there are a lot of people, whether you own property, whether you're renting property, whether you understand or don't understand about half of the things we've shared about in this video, who may be just worried because of the news and the amount of negativity that's being out there. There are so many people who are going to be watching this who are fearful, who are terrified about what's going to happen with their property portfolio, maybe even just with their life and their finances as it pertains to whatever they're doing anyway. It's my faith that allows me to basically go through times like this and know that I'm going to be fine on the other end. And what I want to do is I want to extend a hand out to you and actually say that I'm here and I'm willing to connect with people. And obviously at the end of the video, I'll share how you can connect with me. So what I wanted to do is actually extend the opportunity for me to pray for you so that whatever you're going through right now, you will understand that there's a God who actually cares about you, who's got a plan, even if you do not know what that plan is. And I'm going to take this moment to basically pray for you before we wrap up the video. So Heavenly Father, I just pray for each and every person who's engaging with this content, who's watching this video in any way, shape or form, even if they're just listening. I pray, Father God, that you will help them to see the calm in the midst of the storm. I pray for every attribute of confusion to be removed from their life as they choose to do the right thing as it pertains to your standard and not the standards of us as just mere men. And I pray, Father God, that you will help them to be able to get through this particular scenario, this particular climate of the world, in order for them to stand at the end and know that you had a part to play in that success. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray, amen. Okay guys, that brings us to the end of this video. What I want to encourage you to do is hit the like button if you've got value from this video. Why not even side by side with that, press subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can be a part of our community and also be kept up to date with each and every video we drop as and when we drop it. Now, if you're interested in finding out a bit more about me and how I got into property, feel free to go watch this video here, and then side by side with that, why not press the link just below this where you can basically book a free property inquiry call where I can help you move forward in your property journey absolutely free. This is Samuel I Can Win. I'm signing out. Have a great day. And guys, in this season, I really do hope that you're happily investing.